honestly think transformation happens in an instant, but that instant could be a lifetime coming.
I would say quite premature, because that's the age where people just want to have the time of their life. At that age, this kind of awakening is surprising.
We're all different in the sense that we still have our uniqueness because of our journeys, our soul journeys, etc., etc. So I realized that if I was not going to be true to myself, then life for me, why bother?
For your self discovery, you don't have to travel to Himalayas or far and wide. The diamond is right inside. It's just you have to brush up the dust.
The Vedics gave that to us in one of the, I'm not sure which text it came from now, but it's thousands of years old. They saw it all those years ago, and yet it's still relevant to us because the human being hasn't fundamentally changed, right? So Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya is really, those are the six inner enemies.
There are two parts in Bhagavad Gita, I would say. One which is describing about the war. Then there is one part which is samvad between Krishna and Arjun. So we are very selective. We are mostly looking at Bhagavad Gita as one of the management books and how it can help us as a self-help book.
The challenge we have with our ego is it wants everything now, whereas that which is calling you towards it is infinitely patient. It doesn't have an agenda.
Now, very stupid question. Yoga for dummies. Just think about a normal person who is busy with his 9 to 6 job. He wants to start yoga, he or she. Please give some advice how to get started.
Discipline is just doing it again and again and again and again when you don't want to. Every single day. That is discipline. And, that's why Patanjali's Yoga Sutras begins with, and now we begin the discipline of yoga.
You can have success, status, a full calendar, and still feel like something is missing. Today on Happy Not Just Rich, we are talking about what real fulfillment actually looks like beyond money and milestones. Today, I'm honored to welcome someone who is powerhouse of wisdom, clarity, and self discovery. Ms. Smita Joshi is an award winning author, certified yoga teacher, and a catalyst for transformation. She is the author of Amazon best selling Karma and Diamond Trilogy, inspired by the real life events of her own life, a powerful journey for self discovery that transformed past pain into inner wealth. With 25 years of corporate career, Smita worked closely with C-level leaders of global industry giants, delivering multi-million dollar contracts, including a landmark $1 billion deal. She was also pioneer in integrating India's IT services into major British, European financial institutions. As a TV presenter and a host of self-discovery channel on YouTube, Smita has interviewed leading politicians, entrepreneurs, global spiritual masters, including Sadhguru, Sister Jayanti, Sister B.K. Shivani, Kriya Yoga Master Yogiraj Siddhanath, Shri Ravi Shankar, and so on. She is also producing videos on self discovery, personal development, and emotional intelligence. Her extensive collection of guided meditation is available on her website and platforms such as Insight Timer, Spotify, and Apple. Hello, Smitaji. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Kamal. I'm really honored to be on your amazing podcast. It's a wealth of guidance and knowledge for people that are genuinely interested in living life. I think from the inside out is the way I would put it. And thank you for having
I
me.
when I was preparing for how to start a podcast, people said that keep your introduction very short. But your introduction, what I did is the smallest that we could do. It could not become smaller. I mean, if I go to the full detail, it will take at least 20 minutes because you have so many dimensions. I've been following you on your social media channels, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn for a couple of months, and really glad to have you on the show today. We have a lot to talk. So I would start with the very first question. As I said that you had a corporate career around 25 years and very successful one. What was the triggering point where you said, let me explore this other part of the journey?
That point came when I think it was in my mid 20s, just about 26 years old. I'd been working in corporates, large corporates, well, and I've been doing well enough, but I felt like something was really one dimensional for me. So, if anyone has read the Karma and Diamonds trilogy, you'll know that I had a whole range of sort of events happen in my early life, and through to my teen years and then shortly after, which were quite a lot for a young person to deal with. And so when I was 21, I actually left home, bought my own place, and I had, at that moment, I'd made up my mind that I was going to make my own life, whatever that took. Now, what happens when you actually go and live on your own is that you have a lot of time, a lot of space. You're not surrounded by the very things that conditioned you. And what it does is it starts to give space for the subconscious to start to come to the surface. And from a very young age, I think from must have been about 14 when I started to read books like, The Power of Positive Thinking and
Mm.
Pulling Your Own Strings by Wayne Dyer, and everything that I could read from this amazing American Christian writer called Norman Vincent Peale. But they gave me the permission to bring out my innate kind of zest for life. But then when I was on my own, I found that other things started to come to the surface, things which I had never really known were there. I wasn't conscious of feelings, emotions, deep things which were probably buried and not something that I ever dealt with. So that was the moment when I started to read other things. And there was one particular book that I came across by a lady called Sanaya Roman. It was a very simple book called Spiritual Growth. And it was about connecting to your higher self. And it just completely gave me the access to what I needed, which was to connect, sit down, close my eyes, meditate, and connect to this thing called the higher self, which is essentially what the Vedics have called Atman, which is the part of you that is untainted, not the Jivatman. It's not, this is a part of you that's untainted by life. Krishna talks about it as being unbreakable, you being the one that is indivisible, no one can kill you, no one can harm you, etc. So that was a field that people can call the higher self. So that was the moment when I really started to go deep. Now, alongside of that, I'd watched my dad meditate all my life, you
Mm.
know, do yogic practices and yogasanas and so on as well, but also meditate. So it wasn't unfamiliar to me to have meditation as something that I would want to maybe do. So that plus reading books. So it was very early on in just past my mid 20s that I started to look into why was I feeling some of the emotions I was feeling? What were they about? Why were there other things that were happening in my life that I felt limited by, particularly in the area of connecting to people?
Mm.
Whereas I was a very extrovert, naturally kind of go getting person. So that's when it started.
Yes, I would say quite premature, because that's the age where people just want to have the time of their life, break the rules, be a rebel, and also in the career, just do whatever it asks for. At that age, doing this kind of, I would say, awakening is surprising. Yes.
Comes down to what kind of a background you've had. And
Mm, true.
when you've had, as a young person, as a child, growing up as well, you kind of faced certain disruptions, certain traumas, then the question, either you question yourself as to
Mm,
what more is there, why do I feel the things that I'm feeling, or you go and party them away, you drink them away, you eat them away, you do all the other things that young people might want to do. So I had all of that. I was never drawn to kind of running away from myself.
mm,
That's never, whereas our culture does teach us not to examine and not to explore what's there,
yeah.
and to just kind of move forward, to kind of go ignore the uncomfortable. Even our rishis and gurus teach us to look lightwards, look to the light, look to God, don't
Yeah.
look down in the shadows. Whereas um, I'm more the school of Carl Jung, where, we explore our shadow self, because there is no going to the light without going through the tunnel of darkness. Absolutely
Yeah.
doesn't happen for any human being. And this is why when we try to do that, we try only to relate to the life, and we try only to live in the light, as it were, then the shadow becomes very much even further buried. Um, and this is when, at some point in life, we start to feel blocked.
Yeah. True, true. But I'm happy that finally you found the answers to all those questions which were disturbing you. And that's why we are here with more clarity. And now you're not even clear about yourself. You're actually helping other people to find clarity and self discovery. So,
I'm not sure that I would go so far as to say I've discovered everything, because I really feel that on a daily basis, I'm open. I'm always conscious of the fact that we live in a world of duality, even though
mm,
I practice non-duality, which is, becoming more and more conscious of awareness that is non-dual, the unfragmented, the unconditioned self. That's
mm,
that's where I operate from. However, the more I do that, the more I discover that there are pieces of me that still demand attention. The little girl who was scared when nobody was there to hug her, or whatever, we need to talk to that part of us, to bring that in with us, and to just to acknowledge it rather than shove it away, in the way that the world did.
yeah, brush it under the carpet and just move on.
Yeah.
There are many parts I have prepared in this one. One of you is a yoga teacher, one of you is a YouTuber and TV presenter, and one part of you is this author. So you have multiple personalities. One of the questions which I wanted to ask you, I was dying to ask you, first of all, how do you cross this threshold of planning and implementation? I know a lot of people who plan, but they never do, they never execute. With you, I have seen that you are a go-getter. You plan something and you do it, and you don't even just do it with a okay quality, you excel in it. So how do you beat mediocrity and go from this top level?
Yeah. So, the funny thing about um, somebody like myself, and I'm sure like yourself, who aims for excellence, okay, and we never feel like we have arrived beyond mediocrity. There's always levels and levels beyond that. So, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
At the same time, the paradox is to kind of be really satisfied with the moment, with the effort, with where
Mm.
we are today, with where we are not today. Because, what else is there in time to do? There's just time and time, there's nowhere
Right.
to get as such. Because the more you study any real kind of philosophy, such as yoga or anything which is related to taking you from being the human being to being your highest possible consciousness, beyond anything that we can even imagine, is that it's all just little steps along the way. It's all just small steps along the way, and we have to aim for the next level and the next level and the next level, but at the same time, and work on that with absolute discipline. And that's something that yoga has really taught me. I was one of those young people who lived for instant gratification, but
Mm.
over the years, what I've learned is taught myself is profound discipline, because I find there's so much freedom in discipline. But I think the
Mm.
simple way to answer your question is, once you can get really clear about who you are beyond just the personality that you've become as a result of, your environment, family, education, but
Yeah.
also as a result of the sanskars that you brought with you from previous incarnations, as it were,
Mm.
then we go beyond that, and we ask. This is the whole purpose of the Karma and Diamond Trilogy, why I thought it was worth writing, to really connect to the part of us that is not changing, the part of us that is
Mm.
real, that is always there, that's always watching, that's always available for guidance if we know how to listen to it. So
Mm.
what I did throughout, in parallel to my corporate life, and even during my corporate life, for example, I was really listen to that inner voice and to
Mm.
distinguish it from the part of me that was mind driven, ego driven, the part of me that was limited. For example, the mind monkeys, the one that's comparing myself to other people, the one that competes. Those are all little fragments of our material mind, as it were. And I say material mind, what I mean is as a human being, of our ego self. But once you get really a big taste of who you are beyond all of that, then I don't want to do anything that's not aligned with that. While we're all coming from that Atman consciousness, we're all different. in the sense that we still have our uniqueness because of our journeys, our soul journeys, etc., etc. So I realized that if I was not going to be true to myself, then life for me, why bother? Like, why would I bother? So the
Exactly.
journey
Exactly.
of self-discovery is really discovering who is that self. What is that
Right.
self beyond the name Smita in this life? Who am I? And what is my soul journey? What has that part of me brought here for? What is that journey that I'm on that this
Hmm.
time around I need to learn, or that I really need to nail so that I don't have to repeat the cycle again? And so that's been really the Karma and Diamonds journey that I share, is really about discovering and nailing, like, who I am. And I, for me, as much as I'm an entrepreneur, as much as I love the business world, and I really have enjoyed my time in the business world, making money. I love that. But what really drives me is the notion that I am here, I have a short period of time. I'm here over that period of time to discover something, to learn something, to master something. How can I do that with the time that I have? So then everything I do is really aligned. So it's not fragmented. Everything is kind of
And
consistent.
it develops some sense of urgency when you start thinking that our time is limited,
Yeah.
and that automatically prioritizes the plans. So
Yes. So
yeah.
I'm really good at saying no to a lot of things and a lot of people. I like, no, I mean, as much as I love to do it, for example, Women's International Day is coming up, the speakers, like, you have opportunity to speak and be here and be there, and then I have other things that I already have in the pipeline. And I'm thinking, I really want to do this, or TED Talk, for example, so I will do what I can with the time I might have available. But for the
Mm.
rest, I've cast my die. I've said, this is what I'm working on. This is where I'm going now. And this is what there is to get, and then really work at it, to really kind of, I say work,
Yeah.
I don't mean in an efforting kind of way, but do things that I love to do. Yeah.
Right.
So when we
Yeah.
do, and even when I was working in corporates, my roles were all ones where the people that I reported to knew to leave me alone,
Mm.
and I'll get the job done. If
Yeah.
you're
That's
on
the
my
best
case,
way to get work from her.
for me,
Yeah.
yeah, and I really delivered. And because the way I produce my results were by listening. So when is the right
Mm.
time to call that CEO? When is the right time to send this email? What is the right approach? How? And I listen. And then sometimes I might wake up at 3 in the morning and I have to do that right then, as to send that email now. And then for some reason, something happens that it just happens to be the right time. And synchronicity would have it that materializes. So what it did was it took away a huge amount of my effort. We have
Mm.
to be very strategic. So I was very, very clear about who I was talking to. I would spend a year and a half just researching my client, creating a strategy document, and then knowing what the dynamics were between people, who they were, what they did, what worked, what didn't work. So when the time came, I was able to move, and bring in the right sort of people with me. So there, you've got to use your brain, you've got to use your talents and your skills, and the material world sort of skills, as it were. But I think it makes life so much more interesting when we can tap in to that other part of us that gives us that added advantage to live life more aligned with who you are. And listen to the way it talks to you, which is whether it's intuition, whether it's sometimes you're driving past on a road, and you see a billboard and there's two words on there that you go, damn, that's it.
Mm.
Or you're listening to a radio and there's a phrase in a song, that consciousness, the Atman, speaks to you. And by the way, non-dualists such as Rupert Spira will call it awareness, being aware that you're aware. Eckhart Tolle calls it presence. And so however you might like to, I like to relate to it as a higher self, a part of me. It's a part of one, ourselves. It's just that it's the one that's not immediately hammered with conditioning and have tos and urgencies and so on. So when we connect to that aspect of who we are, business
Mm.
becomes really interesting, relationships
Yeah.
become interesting, and you can literally sweep away the dross, the nonsense. So the journey
Mm.
is about listening, learning to differentiate between the noise of the noise of the mind monkeys, but also the brilliance of the mind, how the mind actually can help you to do brilliant work. You've got to, if you're doing strategy, you need that. So that communication skills, how we communicate, the mind is amazing. So the positives and the negatives of how that mind communicates with us. Then the subconscious works in a very automatic way. It's very emotional. It's very irrational. So that's the subconscious. Then the rishis would call that vasanas, sanskars, those parts of you that are deeply buried, imprinted throughout God knows when. And then there's this other field of consciousness, which is the one that's none of those things, and it doesn't have any of the characteristics. So I'm just making a video on this, actually, even probably recording it today. But that's the journey, is to get really clear about what's talking to you, and
Yeah.
what do you need to talk to you. And if you want to communicate with that consciousness aspect of you, the higher self consciousness, as I call it, then you want to ask it questions, because it's not going to interfere with you. It's not like the mind wanting you to do things randomly. You ask it clear questions, unambiguous questions that it can give you answers to, and then allow the answers to pop up as and when they do.
Yeah, we talked a lot about mind, and this brings me to my another question. I was watching you on this MMP talks, right?
Yeah.
It was a good talk. Yoga and martial art, I think you were combining that part. But one part which really touched me, and I thought that my audience would really benefit from it, was you mentioned six enemies of mind. If we hear from you, it will be great. The
So
six enemies of mind.
yeah, I mean, the Vedics gave that to us in one of the, I'm not sure which text it came from now, but it's thousands of years old. They saw it all those years ago, and yet it's still relevant to us because the human being hasn't fundamentally changed, right? So Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya is really, those are the six. And Kam is, our desires, our
Yeah.
passions, the things that drive us, well, positive and negative. Kam, Krodh is anger,
Anger,
aggression,
aggression.
those aspects of us that we know well. We know what growth is very well, probably because it's one of the most experienced, inner enemies. Kam, Krodh, Lobh is the greed element, where a lot of people are given by. Some people are given by that. So let me come back to how that actually works. So, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh is the attachment we have to people and
Mm.
things. So it's very, very easy when you have a good life or a good relationship to become attached. And even
Yeah.
when you don't, like, we hear about Stockholm syndrome, we hear about in relationships when we get attached to people that are not necessarily that good for us because they've traumatized us, or because they have
Mhm.
treated us badly, and yet we are still attached to them. We can't let them go for even for our own good. So there's Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, and Matsarya. So the, the second two are really about jealousy and envy. The other one is arrogance. So what really happens with those things is that what I have noticed over the years, I've been coaching, I've been observing myself, and just generally observing people, that we tend to have one predominant one of those six.
Mm,
Okay.
mm.
So let's say that you are given to pride. So arrogance and pride, then they go together, right? Arrogance is pride,
Right.
essentially. Some people find it so hard to acknowledge that they have made a mistake. Never. They would rather die
Never.
saying,
Yeah.
"You did well. Thank you for, you did. I'm so inspired by you." Some people would rather die than give that to you, because somehow it affects their pride. And so that's one sort of one of those things. But it's such a deeply buried sanskar in that person
Mm,
that it
mm.
drives their relationships. They would never, even for their own happiness, transform that or give that up or acknowledge it sometimes. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. So any of these six that we've talked about, envy and jealousy, They're the source of resentment and bitterness often, when we think other people are doing better than us, or we want what they have. That can create such huge chasms between people in their personal relationships. So
Right.
so that's really really the point of those six enemies, right? So
Yes.
if I'm not sure that there is anything else other than those. So narcissism will come from pride and arrogance.
Exactly. It's another form, extreme form of arrogance or self pride.
Right.
Narcissism. Yes. Yeah.
So all of those types of things. So that's why in a simple framework the rishis gave us those six inner enemies, and I think they're truly worth examining as to
Yeah.
which one is running me. The converse side of that is that sometimes we, in order to survive in relationships and in life and be accepted by the cultural formats that we live inside of, sometimes we go to the other extreme of that.
Yeah.
So we might bury the anger that we rightfully feel rather
Yeah.
than find ways of expressing it in a way that heals us and in a way that
Yeah.
brings us together with somebody else that we may have had an issue with in that area. So 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 both the two sides to the same coin, in a sense.
True. Actually,
They're
this
the shadow
question,
self that I talked about, by the way. That's the shadow self.
I was saying that we are so selfish actually nowadays. Everybody is so selfish. When we are reading Bhagavad Gita, there are two parts in Bhagavad Gita, I would say. One which is describing about the war. How is the war set up? How is the party A and party B? How many people? Which Rath here? Which Shank here? Like that. Then there is one part which is Samvad between Krishna and Arjun. So we are very selective. We are mostly looking at Bhagavad Gita as one of the management books and how it can help us as a self-help book. And in that one, Krishna says very clearly that man's best friend is also his man, and man's worst enemy is also his man. So if either you are controlling your man or your man is controlling you,
Yes.
in this six, man is actually controlling us, either
Yeah.
by lust or by anger or by whatever. That is what we need to break. Once we break it, then man becomes our friend, the best friend.
See, Avchitman, the one that's subconscious, very
Okay.
often it's buried. It's not, we're not conscious of it.
Right.
We continue to do something when we become conscious of it, then that's on you, right? But
Yes.
really, really, very often, the reason why it controls us is because it's the subconscious element of it. I think they call
Hmm.
it the Avchitman in Sanskrit. So that's the point, is that when you become aware, and this is where awareness, the higher self awareness, is what we
Right.
were working towards. But you can never get to the higher, you can't get to the light and the clarity of that higher self consciousness and awareness without going
Hmm.
through the shadow self, without going through the tunnel of the darkness, and I
Yeah.
feel like I see it a lot, especially in the Indian culture, often in the Chinese culture as well. But in the Indian culture, we literally say, don't look at that, don't talk about that, let's not,
True.
don't, we want to shove it away and lock it up. But what's not acknowledged, and Carl Jung has done I highly recommend Carl Jung's work, especially on the
Okay.
shadow self and the individuation, how you get from that. Because honestly, that guy, he lived around the same time as Albert Einstein, and
Hmm.
in a similar culture. He was Swiss, but Carl Jung did some incredibly deep work on understanding the human being, the human mind, the
Hmm.
ego, and the higher self. And he drew a huge amount of his knowledge from the Shastras. And
Hmm.
so he goes into depth, and I cannot, it's just so uncomfortable going into those dark spaces, and so
Yeah.
uncomfortable to acknowledge our shortcomings, or to acknowledge that I behaved in this way. Because the first thing that happens is, in our culture, and every culture has its equivalent, is shame
Hmm.
is such a huge thing in our culture that it prevents us from acknowledging our shortcomings. It prevents us from looking at our darkness, our inner
True.
inner shadow. So what happens when we do that is because it's so uncomfortable to do that. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. See, now in this podcast, I'm lucky that I'm meeting a lot of coaches a lot of therapists, a lot of thought leaders, inner discovery coaches, self alignment coaches. These kind of people I'm meeting, and always when I'm asking question, in the back of my mind something is running. How can somebody be open to his coach, his or her coach? Like, for example, today I know that I'm troubled. First of all, the brave step would be number one, to accept that I'm troubled. Many people don't even know that they need coaching, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, if they decided that, let's say, now take some coaching or therapy and try to reach my higher self, how many people would be there to open up? I think they will always not it takes a lot of time to really tell somebody that I have a XYZ addiction and shortcomings, and because there's a stigma attached to it. So unless you open up with your coach on all those things, as you said, in the Indian culture, the shame, if this shame is not shredded away, if this curtain is not, let's say, dropped, then all the coaching will be useless, because the doctor doesn't even know about the real problem.
And it happens. This is one of the reasons why I take on so few, people to coach over time, because,
Mm,
you know, a lot of because there's such the coaching industry has sprung up, in the last 10,
true.
15 years in a massive way, and everybody wants to make money, and they will allow you to. They'll take you on. They'll say, this is, so there'll be superficial level of work being done, and that's what happens. And I think if you're deeply interested, you have to commit. You have to be willing to get your face into that stuff that you don't want to look at, that's been under the carpet for so long. And the coach should be there to remind you why you're doing it. That coach
Mhm.
is there to remind you who you are. In most of my videos, I'll remind the person listening, if ever they get to the end of it, that you are a spark of consciousness. That's who you are,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, that's what we want to experience of ourselves. But we want to be reminded that when we have our face in the doo doo, the stuff, when it smells bad, it feels bad,
Yeah.
your view of yourself is being shattered. Your view of who you believe yourself to be, your identity, is being shattered. A coach needs to have that compassion to remind you why you're doing it. I honestly think transformation happens in an instant, but that instant could be a lifetime coming. So without
Yes.
the help from people that genuinely have lived through it, people who really give a damn, it's very hard to get to the other side. We all need help, don't we? We all need it.
Yes. Yes.
And when we
We don't
get there, I
admit
think,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And I'll tell you something. The closer you get to the real nub of your issue before you're about to have a breakthrough, that's the moment you're going to get scared. That's the moment you want to run away. That's the moment you make your coach wrong. Your coach's not good enough. They don't know what they're
Mm,
talking about. All these things happen. All these things happen. And we have to get through that.
yeah.
Commitment is commitment.
It reminds me of one of the past episodes. I think it was episode 8, about self discovery, with a lady from Canada. Her name is Ruchi Sardana. And I will just tell one thing from that interview. She said that you have to stand in front of the mirror, just look yourself in the eyes, because you will really see yourself, and you will admit what is wrong, what is good inside you, what is wrong inside you, what are you looking for. That's the first step to connecting before you go to any coach or anybody. Because if somebody else will tell you you want this, I mean, it's much better if you try to first find it. That's exactly that you are telling in your Karma and Diamond Trilogy, that to find yourself, for your self discovery, you don't have to travel to Himalayas or far and wide. The diamond is right inside. It's just you have to brush up the dust, right? This is what I could understand a little bit from all the research that I did. And really, I'll read more about this and try to find out. So if you
And
get time, please watch my episode 8 when
I
you
will
get
do.
time.
I will. I
Yeah.
definitely will. Then we start looking at language, using language such as wrong with you. There's nothing wrong. We are on a journey. We're on
Mm.
a soul journey. That's why I said to you earlier when I was saying, like, what is my soul journey here to get me, what is it? What am I here to do on this particular? It's the journey of the soul rather than the physical body. So we have this
Yeah.
body, we have the background that we've acquired, but all of those things are instrumental in what you need for your soul's journey.
Yeah.
So none of us on this planet, I'm saying absolutely nobody, and I don't care who they are. If they're in a physical
Yeah.
body, they have stuff that they need to look at and deal with because,
Yeah.
that's the whole shebang. And
Yeah.
we have, because there are layers and layers and layers and layers of higher consciousness that we can ascend into, that we can experience of ourselves, as it were.
Yeah.
The physical body is the most incredible tool because it makes you very present to your limitations.
Hmm. True.
And it's in becoming present to that that we begin to get a glimpse of the clues of, oh, maybe this is where I need to be, there's something I can work on. So there's nothing wrong. There's
Yeah.
just the journey. That's the first thing I want to say to you is please don't relate to anything as being wrong.
I was also doing some research about you. I watched some of your videos on your channel, YouTube channel, and I saw that you have been lucky enough to meet these famous people, the spiritual gurus like Sri Ravi Shankar, Sister BK Shivani, and Sadhguru. So when you were in their presence, because that was not interview, electronic interview, remote interview, that was face to face. Did something fundamentally shifted in your own life from those meeting these visionary people who are so well known and well renowned and so respected? Anybody of them, you can say that something has fundamentally shifted in my own life.
I have had experiences like that. More so, I feel with one of my recent gurus that I interviewed, Yogi Rat Siddhanath. He transmits. I mean, he has a
Mm.
transmission, and what it does is whatever is in your space, as in like some of these veils of Maya that we tend to see life through. Sometimes something can shift in how you view things, and sometimes it's not the way that you think it will be. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's not like,
Mm.
oh wow, look at this now. Sometimes it goes the other way. So every single time you won't. This is not the answer you wanted, I know, but this is my truth. Every single time I have come across any of those individuals who have a some sort of a global presence, one of the things that has shown up the brightest for me, the clearest for me, is to not defer to anybody. That
Mm.
I am here. They are there to mirror back to you that you are that soham.
Yeah.
That is what I get every single time with all these people is is that the genuine ones will reflect back to you that you are that. You are not your mind, you're not your body, you're not your emotions, you're not your feelings. You are the consciousness beyond all of that, and that is your
Mm.
birthright.
Yeah.
That's what I come away with, okay? Whether they want me to come away with that or not, I don't know. But that
Yeah.
is what I get more and more present to on a daily basis. And what it says to me is that your higher self is good enough to guide you to where you need to be.
Right.
Absolutely good enough. So,
Have I
and what he talked about, and also what Krishnamurti talked about, and Jiddu Krishnamurti, is really what I get present to, and that's my soul's journey is to experience that incredible, boundless level of inner freedom from the personal mind stuff, and to
Mm.
really get and take responsibility for who I am at that level, you know. And
Mm.
I have no interest in being a guru, or I have no interest in doing any of those things. But each and every one of us has the responsibility of picking up the reins of our own
Yeah.
higher consciousness, and then connecting with that, and really the soul's journey is to become more and more and more of that without and sacrificing all of the other stuff which keeps you from being that.
Like, yeah, above all the people that I mentioned that you have interviewed and I was talking about, my personal favorite is Sister BK Shivani. Actually, I have some fond memories of that because around 15 years back, my mom left me. And I still remember that me and her used to watch her on Divya channel or Sanskar channel. So I have some fond memories that I used to watch with my mother, and she's not there with us. Plus, now I came to an age where we start getting all these thoughts, where her thoughts are very helpful. Like, for example, affirmation. I'm a powerful soul, whatever I eat is healthy, and so on. And my problem is, I respect her, I like her, I completely agree with her what she's saying. But the moment that video is over, I am again myself. I
Yeah.
don't have the courage to implement what I learned. And this could happen with any book, any positive, any nice self help book I read, any satsang I listen to, any coaching, motivation session. If I'm not implementing that on my life, all this is useful. So, do you have any personal advice for me, Kamal Vij, to be a little bit more stronger so that I could implement what I was listening? Because I am very weak in that part. I will be very honest with you on this public platform.
Mm.
I don't have power to implement what I learned from Sister BK Shivani.
So there are stages of absorbing knowledge,
Mm.
information, and so on, right? And the fact that you are engaging in these sattvic
Yes,
conversations,
true.
that already is a clue to where your inner being wants to guide you towards, right? And at the same time, that sort of commitment, there's a moment when you commit, you jump off the cliff, and you say, I'm going to do this. And you have done that, because if you had not done that, you wouldn't notice the moments when you are stepping, when you're kind of stepping back on again. So that's what I hear, is that if you hadn't already taken steps, some good steps along the journey, you wouldn't even know that that's what was happening. So how about we be patient with ourselves? How about when that happens, we just get back on? The challenge we have with our ego is it wants everything now, whereas that which is calling you towards it is infinitely patient. It doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't have any urgency for you to get there today, tomorrow, day after, or 3 lifetimes from now, or 50 lifetimes from now. That's down to you. So the only thing to do is to keep doing what you're doing and keep reminding yourself. It's like, oh, okay, I've fallen off the wagon again, let me get back on again. It's a bit like in AA you have the 12-step program. Those people, Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yes.
they never call themselves a done deal. They always say, I've been dry for X number of years or months or whatever, because there's always a possibility that you might fall off the wagon. It's a bit like
Yes,
that.
and go back.
It's just a journey, right? So
Yeah.
I would say, what would I say about that? I would just say, really learn some patience and talk to yourself with kindness, but
Mm.
firmness, because if you're committed, you're back on again.
Yeah. So discipline, basically. Discipline and nothing else.
Discipline is just doing it again and again and again and again when you
Mm.
don't want to. Every single day. That is discipline. And
Mm.
that's why Patanjali's Yoga Sutras begins with, and now we begin the discipline of yoga.
Mm.
It's Atha Anushashan Yoga, something like that. And the second one is Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is that everything is yoga, is that which takes place, the union with the ego self, with the higher self. You've probably heard I say this a lot because it's so fundamental. When you step outside of the whirlpool of the mind. So you're describing the whirlpool of the mind, saying to you, oh, I have no discipline, I'm so weak, I'm this, I'm that. Step outside of that. Discipline needs you to get out and just do what needs to be done, and cut the crap, really. Cut the nonsense
Yeah.
of the internal dialogue.
Yeah. Great.
That's a discipline.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then my next question is very small, because I was
But
watching
wait,
around
wait,
Christmas.
was that helpful?
It is helpful. The takeaway from that I would take is, do that again and again. Have patience and be kind to yourself. This is the takeaway I will take and try to implement.
And do it again. But I know it's not what you want to hear, right?
No, no, no. I'm seriously. This was not a podcast question. This was like a question for myself as Kamal Vij, not this podcast host. A person, Kamal Vij, talking to somebody who I am looking towards to get answer. Because I listened to Sister Shivani. It's so amazing. She's doesn't have kids, but when she gives advice for parents how to talk to the kids, it's perfectly, everybody aligns with that. Nobody argues. Same between husband and wife. It's not about spirituality. She gives some real good
Practical.
advices for life, easy to understand, and especially this affirmation that
Yes.
every morning if you talk to yourself that I am a powerful being. I eat healthy food. I don't react, I
Yeah.
respond after analyzing. My relationships are in harmony. My health is perfect. These kind of things, if you're saying to yourself 7 or 8 times a day, already the law of attraction will work and you'll start getting seeing positive results. And I tried my best. I try to do it again and again. But since some stressful activity comes and then we jump off the wagon. But hopefully I'll be
And
more
get back
patient,
on
more
again.
disciplined.
And really listen to the internal dialogue. That's the mind monkey noise. Anywhere
Mind
where
monkey
you
noise.
where you where you find yourself making yourself wrong, that's the mind monkey noise. And the reason
Mm.
why it's mind monkey noise is because it's not helpful, and it doesn't take you from it doesn't do anything for you. It just beats you up. So
Yeah.
if it's not helpful, we really want to learn to calm it down and kind of retire it.
Yeah. Great. Okay, my next question. This is I prepared during the I was watching your reels during Christmas time. You prepared some series of videos. Every day you were posting one video, and in that one you said that happiness is not something that you chase, but you train. So let's talk about that one because everybody's looking for happiness.
Exactly. Here's the thing. We chase happiness, but actually happiness is a byproduct of other
Yeah.
things, right? So for me, happiness comes when I go on my yoga mat. I've done my yoga practice. I
Mm.
have gone through the mind noise that says I'm not up for it, don't want to do it, I'm too tired or whatever, I can't do this, etc. So the other side of discipline is happiness and freedom. And
Mm.
so that's the training that we're really talking about is we expect to be made happy with things that we do. But then let me give you an example. I scuba dive a lot. I've been diving for 28 years.
Wow.
For the last 18 years, we've done very regular diving. The first 10 years was a bit sporadic. One of the things that I've learned is that there are so many things to overcome, fear, techniques, skills. The climate down below can change any moment. And what I realized the last time I was diving was like there were several dives when I noticed myself being so relaxed that I had to remind myself not to fall asleep because I was just so chilled out. That was like a breakthrough because that was me getting out of my own way.
Generally, how long you stay underwater in this one?
So it all depends on a person's ability, air consumption capacity. In my case, I can stay for an hour. I can stay longer. But I
Mm.
have very good air consumption. Depends on the dive that we're doing as well. Sometimes it's 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Well, usually we tend to go for the hour sort of period each time. But the point I'm making about this is that happiness, it's really coming the happiness that I experience and the freedom, the joy, the being present is where the happiness comes from. And to be
Yeah.
able to get to that, we've got to practice our craft. We've got to
Mm.
practice our craft and not do it for being happy, but do it, just do the thing that you're passionate about and see what results. And the other side of that
Mm.
is happiness, is how balanced are we in the four purushats. So the rishis told us about dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. For
Yes.
me, happiness arises when I'm able to grant each one of those quadrants in my life sufficient time and depth. So for example,
Beautiful.
so when it comes to dharma, so dharma is, most people will say is doing your duty towards your society, family, etc. But it's also your life purpose, your unique makeup that
Mm.
lends itself so well to doing one thing and not another thing. So if we engage in that, that already means that we have access to a certain amount of happiness. Equals for me is contentment, right?
Mm.
Because the happiness is fleeting, but contentment is a state, santosh. And then there's artha. And of course, we have to earn money. We have to do all the
Yes.
things that the material world needs us to
For
do.
the comfort. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to develop that. That's also it's not something we can negate if you want to be on the spiritual path. Oh, I'll let
Mm.
somebody else do that. No, We need to do it
No.
for ourselves somehow. And that's another thing. We want to do that, but we want to do it with the calm element, which is the passion. We want to inject some rust into it, because calm aspect of our life, karma, is the rust, the juice of life, right? So it's
Yeah.
not just sexual desire, and it's that too. Of course, we want that to be working really well in our lives, because if it's not, well, you will hear about it, okay? Because you will feel
Yes.
one dimensional. But it's more than that. It's like I talk about my yoga, the meditation, the scuba diving, writing. All these things fall in the area of absolute passion for me. When I'm when I'm expressing myself in those ways, then that feeds into the dharma and the aspect of life as well, indirectly. But then there's the moksha element. And, whenever we're developing certain capacities or skills in ourselves, we might spend more time in one area than we do in another area. But eventually we do get to that place where everything we're doing is really about inner freedom, and freedom from the illusions, the maya, the veils of illusions that we live through. So for me, that's really the training element, is giving ourselves the permission to have
It's
a
a,
little
it's a
bit of
good
each
structure
of it.
that you are given.
Yeah.
But those four quadrant, I will try to put it in description because many people don't understand Hindi. So I'll try to put this in the editing so that people can understand this a little bit more. It's really, really great. I can see that my personal reading is that you will not be having many friends in the neighborhood, because the kind of intellectual level you are looking into, somebody you are talking to, you will not find very common around you. Then I think you must be having around the world, but maybe not in the neighborhood.
I used to want that a lot before. I used to crave that.
Mm,
But I'm very fortunate. I have a husband who is up for all of that for me. Okay. So in
great.
all the different ways. But in terms of, you're absolutely right. But the more I go on my personal journey, the more I realize, the more I don't need it. Okay, when it
Yes,
shows
yes.
up, I will grasp it with both hands, and we'll develop something with that. But
Yeah,
whereas before I went looking for it, now I don't. I trust the path, in the sense that, when people are supposed to show up, they'll show up. And
yeah,
the one thing that really falls by the wayside when all the illusions start to, the veils of Maya starts to kind of lift and fritter away from me, is, you're able to be self-sufficient so much, to a
mm,
very, very large extent, and be satisfied. Push, have santosh with that. Be very
true.
content with that. And then when people do show up here and there, it's such a joy, to connect, such as,
Yeah.
like yourself, with this conversation has been such a joy. So, it is what it is. And I don't feel a missing in that area.
No, no, I definitely knew that because the kind of the talks you are having with yourself, that is sufficient. I myself, I have spent a couple of years in Europe. My master's education happened in Germany, and I stayed quite some time alone. I would say that was a little bit boring in the beginning, a little bit sad also, but it made me be satisfied with myself. So I tried to enjoy my own company, which is very, very important. Very important. And it doesn't mean to be in a sad way. This solitude doesn't need to be always negative. Sometimes you are
Yeah.
enjoying this rather than being, for example, I have a friend. She's a female of the same age, and we don't share any sexual feelings for each other. Okay, we are just friends. Now if I meet with somebody who is very close friend of mine, and he cannot understand this, that this boy and girl can be just friends, and makes even 1% lewd remark about us, that person is gone from my life forever. I mean, if I don't care, we studied together, we went to college together, our parents know each other, I don't care. If you cannot understand what I feel for this, my female friend, and you are just looking at from the same dirty lens
Yes.
which the society has given you, please, you don't deserve to be my friend anymore. I mean, this is the kind of,
Perfect.
and I'm okay with that. I
Great
mean, okay.
boundary to have. Absolutely.
I'm teaching my son also the same thing. There is only one Elon Musk. There is only one Steve Jobs. So if Steve Jobs said that I will have another partner, only then I will develop this and that. That's why rather than being with somebody who is not aligning with you, better you start aligning with yourself. At the end, the
Exactly.
lion yeah, he hunts alone. You are a lion, tomorrow you'll go alone, maybe to college, to industry, to he's 14 years old now. So that's why all of this podcast that I'm doing, I feel that I have a social responsibility towards him, so that he can say that I want to be like my father. So I have to do something good for myself to feel good, so that if I die, I die as a happy person. I have done my duties well. At the same time, I have this social obligations toward my son to give him a role model which he can say, yes, I want to be like my dad, which is a very tough title to win, by the way.
I know that's
Yeah,
probably the biggest prize you'll have.
exactly.
I was
Yeah,
saying, you're absolutely right. Loneliness and solitude are not the same.
exactly.
Solitude is something that if you are on a true spiritual journey, you're going to
Enjoy it.
have to get
Yeah.
comfortable with being by with yourself and enjoy it so much that actually the social interactions are a punctuation, here and there. You're more than happy to spend time on your own because there's enough. You're more than enough.
Yes. Great. So now we'll talk about your favorite part, which probably you would love to talk about it, and I would love to hear about it. Your three books, which are called Karma and Diamond Trilogy. The first book is called Moonchild. The second one is called Web of Karma, and the third one is called Diamonds Revealed. So, stage is yours. Please tell somebody who is like me, who hasn't read anything from that, in what order I should read them, and if I read these books, what I'm expecting.
Great. Thank you for the question. Read them in the order that they're written, one, two, three,
Mhm,
because they follow the journey of myself from the age of
mhm,
7. But the reason I have written these books are a journey of self discovery. And the self that we're discovering is the self with a capital S. But we're also along the way discovering how the Smita self, the identity, the personality, how she gets in her own way, and what she needs to do in order to be able to access that higher self in a more easy, effortless, and joyful way. And my personal journey, it's written through my voice, but it's written in a way where you will be able to find yourself, locate yourself in there somewhere. So whilst it's about me, it's not really it's a quest that you will be able to relate to and go on for yourself. What I the self that I talk about, the diamond that I talk about is in two sort of two faceted. One is the diamond, I call it the higher self, I call the higher self the inner diamond because in my experience it's the most precious thing, you know, in the world, in the universe, in ever. And because it's the bridge, it's that which connects you to Paramatman. So the higher self is the Atman, and then that's kind of like why it's a diamond is because it is a diamond. It is that which I mean, the whole analogy applies. We need to sift through, we need to dig it out, clear the dust, the dirt that obscures that diamond in order that we can actually claim it as being ours, as being who we are. But the journey also has taken me into previous lifetimes just by listening to that inner voice. So I learned how to listen to the guidance of that higher self. And I learned to do that in so many different ways, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditating, whether it's just all the various other things that I've talked about. And to distinguish it apart from my internal dialogue, the personality sort of limiting dialogue, the inner noise versus the inner voice. So that's really the journey. And the other side of the diamonds is relationships. I actually did have a challenge finding, really getting clear about who would be the right person for me and then actually allowing that to happen because I was under time pressure for myself, like I know I'm already this age, I need to get married, and so on and so on. So the whole journey is about discovering the true essence of who I am and what makes for a right life for me.
I would like to find myself also through those books. It will be,
Beautiful.
it will be.
I hope you do. Um, it's really a journey for anybody who is ready to connect to the self within, to the higher self, to that treasure that's just waiting to be discovered within.
Actually, we had to postpone this podcast for a couple of weeks, and I'm very happy for that because it gave me some time to go through your life, your social media, your website, And on my TV, there is this meditation which you offer from guided meditation, Star Studded Sky.
Oh yeah.
And yesterday, I was lying on the floor with my son, who is 14-year-old, and we were both listening. And I told him, "No cheating, just keep your eyes closed and feel." It was very relaxing. I still
Oh,
have that on my TV. And also, there are some more. So I would really ask my audience to please go to your website, and if you go to your website, please don't come out in 30 seconds, because there is a lot to explore. Please at least block 4 or 5 minutes of your life to explore everything, because there are a lot of hidden stuff, and there's also some free gifts also on the website. Other than
amazing.
for podcasts, of course, your self discovery channel, I would tell them that if they go, they will not come out. Myself, I watched, I think last week with my wife, Nanak Nam. That episode I
Oh
really
yeah, that
liked a
was
lot.
really nice.
Yeah, because in India, I come from a family. We are Hindu, but mostly we go to gurudwaras.
Mm.
Even I got married in gurudwara. If you go Faridabad, where I come from, if you go to any gurudwara, you will find maybe 90% Hindus and 10% Sikhs. It is that kind of harmony we have. It was very good episode. So the back to the audience, I would simply say that please visit her channel and try to explore more about you for their
Thank
benefit.
you
Now,
so much,
one very
Kamal. You're very, very kind. I appreciate your acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, very stupid question. Yoga for dummies. Okay, please don't go. Don't think that the people who are listening are very intellectual here. Just think about a normal person who is busy with his 9 to 6 job. He has heard that yoga is useful. He wants to start yoga, he or she. Please give some advice how to get started
Do you
and what
mean
are do's and
asanas?
don'ts.
Do you mean asanas or do you mean more the other side of yoga? That's the true
Okay,
yoga.
I'll make it very clear for a normal person. They all think that bending your legs and under this is yoga. This is one part of the yoga, I would say, but other yoga also has a spiritual part, connecting
That's what it
yourself
is.
to the,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So both, I would say, whatever can help us in well-being. Stage is yours, you are the best. So I would consider me as dummy who has never done yoga in his life. What would you advise me so that tomorrow I can start?
The first thing that I'm really passionate about this is breathing, learning to breathe correctly. I say correctly,
Mm,
I mean, filling the lungs, inhaling, exhaling, just very simple breath practices.
very good.
And then if you can, use some of the, what people want to do is to go into the very funky pranayams like, Kapalbhati
Yes.
and some of those other more sort of things that look really funky. But what I've noticed in when I teach yoga is the first thing I teach people to do is just to learn to slow the breath right the way down.
Yeah.
Inhale really slowly. In fact, maybe you can do this right now. That's the
Okay.
one thing that I would recommend you to do is just to close your eyes for a moment and just inhale very, very slowly. Start to breathe in to the heart center and relax the shoulders. Exhale, slowly release the exhale. Allow the exhale to be complete. Then, when you inhale the next time, slow the breath slowly like a fluid stream. Draw the breath in, draw the breath in, draw the breath in, maybe slightly longer to the belly. And then slowly exhaling, slowly, slowly, fully and completely. And so another breath just like this, slow it down again, one more breath, and then you'll basically be there. Lengthen the breath in a little bit longer. So the breathing aspect of the practice, Kamal, is the first thing I would teach to anybody because it is the one thing which is necessary to calm your nervous system. So that's the one thing. Then the second thing is if you find it really hard to close your eyes for a minute or two, sit on your own, get guided meditations. Any voice you like, there are free apps, Inside Timer and so on. Inside Timer is very good. Find a teacher whose sound you like and whose pace and rhythm you like, and just follow that for about a week or something. Start really like you've got to start low resistance. And very quickly, I think you'll become hooked because what will happen is all the dopamine and serotonin, all these good hormones will start to flood you. And so that's where I would begin. I would say when we're beginning, we just want to keep it really simple.
No, I have been using this breathing around 7:30, 6:30, 7:30 at the end of my work day if I want to just relax. Rather than going to Netflix, nowadays I'm just going to a sofa. This happening for last 7 8 days, by the way. At
Amazing.
7:30 I'm going to sofa and just laying down and doing this deep breathing, and my wife is very angry because I skipped dinner. I All I want is just to make some deep breaths and relax to come out of my work day stress, but actually I'm sleeping,
You fall
and it
asleep.
is relaxing me so much.
Yeah.
And
In the beginning, that's exactly what happens, is that your nervous system starts to relax and
mm,
all the stresses start to come out and you fall asleep. But see if you can work through that, plow through that, and you'll find that it becomes easier. And some days you might still fall asleep because you're just that tired.
yeah, yeah, true, true, true. Great, great. Thank you. So we will now try to go into a something light. We have been talking too serious and too much difficult questions. So let us go for some fun rapid fire round. Here,
Okay.
my questions are going to be very short, and I hope that your answers are going to be quick.
Very short as well.
No, no, no. I don't want to be rude. I mean, stage is yours. You are my hero. No, I mean quick. I wanted to
Okay.
have quick.
Got it. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I really enjoy in this podcasting is that it's come some kind of a role play for me. The person who is my guest is my hero. So that is always there in my mind, that you are my hero. So you are allowed to elaborate as much as possible, but quick. Okay. First question I would say is that you are a morning person or a midnight owl.
I'm a midnight owl that's learned to be a morning person.
Okay. One book you think everybody should read.
I don't have a book, but if push comes to shove, I think Autobiography of a Yogi is a good one.
Meditation or movement, which one you can't live without?
You've got to do movement. You've got to do movement because that will lead to meditation.
Your biggest indulgence or guilty pleasure?
Watching Vedic astrology videos,
You
learning
can
Vedic
watch them
astrology
forever.
through videos.
Okay. A mantra or quote you live by?
Be true to yourself.
Tea or coffee to start your day?
Both.
Okay.
I leave the house with tea, and then on the way I pick up a coffee. It's a really bad habit.
That gives me a counter question. You are Indian, you are living in London, and we say British tea. When we say British tea, does it always come with milk and sugar just like the Indian?
No, you can have black tea, but mostly we drink it with milk. I don't drink it with sugar. I actually, yeah, or alternative milk these days, whichever. Yeah,
Yeah.
usually there's always tea. Sugar is a choice.
Okay. So I mean, my wife, for example, she can live without food, but she cannot live without tea,
I know. It's my mom too. She's
right?
like that.
She's among those. I mean, you don't ask her, "Do you want tea?" It's it's like insult to her. I mean, what's the meaning of no? I don't want tea. I mean, who does? It's like that.
Yeah.
Always wants tea means always want tea. So we had very deep questions. I just one last question that comes to my mind. That for me, I have been following you on your social media. Is there anybody in your podcast you really want to interview or
Oh,
to
I have
meet?
so many people. I have so many people
Mm,
that I want to bring on. Gabor Mate, he talks about trauma and healing, and he's amazing. Bessel van
mm,
der Kolk talks about the body keeps a score. So these are people. Hopefully they're lined up along the way for me to talk to this year.
mm.
I've talked to Dr. DeMartini several times. He's amazing. There are so many people my list goes on.
Great. Because your horizon is also very very vast. You are very receptive. Last week I had an opportunity to meet Mr. John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women
I
From
thank you for
Venus.
sending me the picture. Yes, my
Yeah,
apologies. I didn't see that until yesterday. I thought I missed that email for some reason.
yeah.
How amazing. How
Actually, there
was that?
was Arab. Most of the sessions were in Arabic. I'm not Arabic speaker, but luckily there was one lady, Rita Sana. I attended her session. It was very good. And then Dr. John Gray and his team, I was able to meet and shake hand and take some photos. So great. I mean, this is one of the first books that I might have read because I come from a school where reading was not very common. I mean, especially English reading was impossible. I mean, we were just
Really?
studying in our regional language, Hindi
Hmm.
language,
Hmm.
and even the physics, chemistry, history was in Hindi. And reading English books like this one, Shakespeare did not even exist. I mean, till I go to college, you can say like that. So
Wow.
I
Well, you
was.
speak English so well.
Thank you very
You
much.
speak
Thank
really
you.
well. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I thank you. I have taken a lot of time from you. Thank you very much for that. I just want to say that it was pleasure. It was really pleasure. The key takeaway for me from this episode would be that you don't have to travel far and wide to find yourself. We just need to sit in solitude, just think what we need, what makes us happy, and that could give us the fulfillment, and that would be our ticket to self discovery. And for my audience, I would simply say if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thank you very much for being on my channel. And thank you, Smita ji, once again for finding time to talk to me.
Thank you so much, Kamalji.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.